This is going to be a one-take clap.
Good.
I've just been like doing the double clap thing, so this is going to be one take. Good?
I'm ready to go, Dan.
Let's do it. Dan, it's like podcast episode 39. Back on the grind, like I'm feeling.
Been a big week. Let's get into it.
Big week, so I got this one. So this isn't a where am I wrong. It's not a software update. It's kind of just this concept I'm trying to figure out in my brain. So I've been thinking about authenticity a lot recently, and I feel like a lot of folks are able to be their most authentic selves in a one-to-one or maybe one-to-two conversation. But as you start to scale that out into, say, 10 or 15 people, there's an inverse correlation between the ability for someone to be authentic. Say, at a Thanksgiving dinner, you can't be necessarily your true selves in front of everyone. And then as you extrapolate that out into an even greater population, say once you become a politician, then that's why we think folks talk in just talking points and trite banalities. So how do we fix that one? How do we get folks to be their more authentic selves in a large group?
I'm a little both ways on this, Dan. So first thing is, I feel like sometimes the way we modulate how we speak in groups is actually speaks more of who's listening and not of ourselves. So I think we could actually be pretty authentic, but we sometimes modulate based on what other people want. So I just notice myself, like when I'm around my family versus other groups of people, like I definitely respond in different ways because I know that they will respond like well to witty, sarcastic phrases, but most people won't. So like when I know what the audience, when I know what part of myself to show the audience, I'll show it. Like if they'll connect with it. Does that make sense? So like it's not being inauthentic, it's just being selective.
Right. No, I like it when you're crowd. You gotta be, you're not gonna speak to everyone the exact same way, but it's just a weird concept to me that I guess it's kind of this idea of like the multiple types of consciousness or multiple types of the brain's a complex place. So I'm always trying to figure out what the hell's happening up there, and I really don't make that much progress consistently. So that's why I come to you, Will, to help me with this shit.
Well, you're in the wrong place, but so let's think if we brought this to the extreme at one end. So famous historical figures, most influential people of all time. So Jesus and more recently Martin Luther King Jr. Just randomly popped in my head.
Yeah.
What if they just talk to us like we're just buds? Would that have a different effect on their message? Don't you think?
I think it would be cool to figure out how to do that because normally that's really where you get the granularities of what a real person is like. So I don't know how that's done, but someone figure it out. That's why I think podcasts are so popular. But anyway, that was an interesting one.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. More to unpack there. So logical fallacy of the day. When something historical happens, people often say, or people often get kind of in this deterministic mindset of like, oh, well, of course it happens. And I'm all for determinism, Dan. But I think we often lose sight of like, hey, if this were to happen multiple times, there'd be a lot of different outcomes, and people get very into this one way of thinking things must have gone.
Right.
And I think there is actually, I'll shut up. What logical fallacy is behind that?
I like this concept. Something about probability or probabilistic fallacy. Oh, yeah, it's about rolling dice. I don't know, the randomness fallacy, the
the gambler's fallacy.
I'm with you, yeah. I think that the first one off my head was like sports. Is like, you can, everyone after the fact, after a given, game or series in baseball or basketball is like, oh, definitely seen that one coming. It's like, there's just a lot of random shit. It's like, if you play the Super Bowl 10 times, and, that's why the phrase any given Sunday is so relatable, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. All your Super Bowl experience. But it is curious, though, how just like by the fact of something happening, it almost shuts down our brains thinking about what could have happened in that moment, right? It's like, oh, well, it already happened, so I'm not even going to consider what, like, those other possibilities, right, of our game plan just go out the window. Let's say coach has a game plan, and first half get rocked. It's like, it's never like, well, this could have gone the other way, so it's like, no, this is one thing and one thing only now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's only half done, right? Isn't it?
I don't know. I think this kind of plays into some of my thoughts around determinism, because you got me on this one. Well, I don't know what else to add as far as the... I'm trying to think of a good example in the day-to-day sphere that this would be relevant in. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Well, I just think, making sure you have a good concept of what the possibilities are, and then not losing sight of those possibilities just because of what happened. Maybe. I don't know. We'll leave it there.
The gambler's fallacy. Okay, the gambler's fallacy. All right, so how about this one? This one, I guess this is an ambivalent Dan episode. I usually, make my name on hot takes. A lot of ambivalence today. So think about this idea of parenting. Hopefully, I'm not thinking about doing it myself anytime soon. But there's this mindset of, okay, do you have your kids earlier and they kind of put the pressure on you to become more responsible, or should you have them a little bit later in life when you feel like you are, more an adult as you can be, and be able to give them a little bit more attention? I think they both have trade-offs. I'm a little bit on the fence on this.
You're on the fence of like which one is better for you?
Not for me. I think just generally, maybe it should be more of a personal. I mean, it definitely comes down to a personal choice thing, but just from a philosophy perspective. Which, if you, from a probability perspective, if you ran the experiment, 1,000 times and 1,000 people did the first and 1,000 did the second, what would the results be for outcomes?
So what it makes me think of, Dan, is maybe some people are discounting having kids early in favor of having them later. When actually, maybe there's some creative ways to leverage having a kid younger, like you said, it makes you be more responsible. But also, if you, so I hear having a kid is quite the emotional experience. I've heard, and maybe you could, if you're enlightened about this, you could, not in a bad way, but leverage having a kid as a way to do better for the world too. It's like, hey, I'm seeing this child is me in the future, basically. So this is actually my emotional connection to get me more serious about my big goals, if that makes sense. So it's almost like a power up for your focus and motivation. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, I think it does. There's no doubt that reproducing will change your perspective on things. And yeah, for me, it's like I always thought that it would be more the former example that I had posed, or at least for myself, would be a little bit later down the road. I kind of like what you just espoused as far as like creating a little bit more pressure for yourself, and not just the idea of working and living for yourself, living for another is obviously a powerful concept.
But obviously. Blast radius is one person with that, but so the point would be to leverage that to make your bigger blast radius more effective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Oh, so okay, fun idea here. So, been reading this book. It's called Black Elk Speaks. Very fascinating. One of the last great native chiefs of the Sioux tribe in Nebraska. Anyway,
nice.
A lot of things are very foreign to him, including he finds this watch and wears it as a necklace because it's beautiful. And he's like, oh, it was ticking, and then it stopped, and then I brought it and it started. So you have a magic wand, Dan. How do we keep track of time? Do we get rid of time? Do we measure it by a different metric? Is it some sort of bodily metric? What do we do with time? Can't use clock anymore.
Time's interesting one. Yeah, I think that this might be a hot take, but I feel like humans created the idea of linear time, right? The idea of linear time is a pretty new idea to existence. How was that phrase? I can't remember who said it from a philosophy perspective, that time is a flat circle. But if a tree had consciousness, they would say, and you said, oh, it's 1 o'clock. They say, what is 1 o'clock? They have no idea what that means, because they're just living at a different scale than say humans. So that's a roundabout way of saying I would probably start to judge time maybe based on small accomplishments in a given day. I got out of bed. That's my first one. That's kind of when the day starts. I don't know, Will. You have any brilliant ideas on this one? Changing the way that we measure time?
So I was thinking of something along the lines of the places you go throughout the day are always with a crowd of people who are in the same mindset as you. So like if you wake up and you're tired, then you're going to go, you would want to go, that's like the indicator, the time to go to this group that helps people feel more motivated, woken up, mindful, etc. If you're feeling hungry, you go eat with other people who are also feeling hungry. But it's not based on the time, like time in our sense. It's based on these, this mindful kind of body signals. And like when you feel motivated to do a lot of good work, you're going to go with a lot of other people to do a lot of really hard work. And I think that's might be a better way to look. Because I feel like people come to meetings a lot and they're just like all over the place. Or come to class and it's like 3 kids haven't eaten, 10 kids are just bored and didn't sleep, and then the rest are like ready. 2 kids are ready to work, and it's just like.
I think that you just pitched me on a societal reorg, Will. Your segment 4s recently have been quite good. That would be really tough to organize, but I kind of like what you're.
Well, let's
picking up
think.
what you're putting down.
Let's think. From ground zero, we just have we have billions of humans who we have to organize throughout the day anyway.
Right.
And we have to teach all of them a system. They don't know any system yet.
Yeah.
Is it easier to teach them clocks as we know them now and time? Is that a better system? Well, first, how easy it is to teach might not be the best way to teach it. I mean, the easiest thing to teach is like...
It's linear time is probably the most short-term, easy way to grasp the idea.
I think the question we should be asking is like not what is the easiest to teach, but what actually is the best way to produce, to steal Sam Harris's word, human flourishing, right? Like how do we sync those things up? Because right now I feel like a lot of people show up to events that they're supposed to do things together at, and they're just all in different places in terms of their body and mind. And like if you could line that up, that'd be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it'd be quite.
That's why sports games are pretty cool, because like everybody's kind of on the same page that way, right?
Right. Yeah, I think there's some interesting biology behind that too, because it's like, at least from the little that I've read, I remember that book Why We Sleep. He was talking about. He gave this like evolutionary hypothesis, Matthew Walker, a really interesting guy, about how there's a decent portion of folks are morning people, quote unquote. Some are more like afternoon people, as far as their normal clock is concerned, and that was like an evolutionary advantage if you had some folks that slept earlier and then would take watch in the early morning.
If you had the mix,
and vice versa, and then other folks would go to bed late and then get up a little bit later. So you only had, instead of like 8 or 9 hours of everyone asleep, you only had 3 or 4 hours where everyone was lights out, and like
that's interesting.